One, Salve, Regina won 4-0. 3 runs in the 3rd inning and 1 run in the 6th inning. All the scoring that the Seahawks would need, and made a 4-0 winner out of Vin Roth, who improved to 4-1 on the season. A few changes in the Bison lineup for Game 2. Right fielder Matt Hardy is now left fielder Matt Hardy, and he's in the leadoff spot for the Bison. He's number 1. Catcher Benjamin Harrow is now batting 2nd. Third baseman Shane McNally is batting 3rd. The designated hitter Joseph Nicolais, he also DH'd in Game 1. He's back there in Game 2. In the 4th spot, first baseman Jeff Sylvester is in the 5th spot. New right fielder for the Bison is Greg Pohl, number 18. He's a sophomore from East Granby, Connecticut. He's batting .292 on the season. Shortstop is again Brett Franciosi. Second baseman is also back in there, Scott Iacopucci. New center fielder for the Bison, he's batting 9th in the lineup, is Evan Thompson. Number 16 is a junior from Longmeadow, Massachusetts. He's batting .190 on the season. Those are the fielders for the Bison. Their pitcher is Colin Geegan. And for Salve, Regina in the field, a few changes. Ryan Sweener, who designated hit it in the first game, is now playing in the field, and he's also the leadoff batter. He's playing left field. He's batting .354 on the season. Center fielder is once again Ryan Kelly. He'll be batting 3rd. Right fielder is Tyler Colby, moving over from his left field spot in Game 1. Third baseman is once again Joe Haley. Shortstop is once again Dan Donahue. New second baseman for the Seahawks is number 5, a junior, Sean Becker from Richmond, Virginia. Anthony Conti, who started at second in Game 1, moved over to first in the 7th inning. He's playing first base in Game 2. Catcher again is once again Dominic Desano, and he'll be catching number 33, right-hander Corey Poplowski, a freshman from Syracuse, New York. Poplowski is 0-1 on the season with a 2.77 ERA. He's made 3 starts in his 4 appearances, 13 innings pitched. He's allowed 13 hits, 4 runs, all earned. He's walked 2 batters and he's struck out 9. He's only given up 1 extra base hit, and that was a triple. And he's making his 4th start of the season today as the Seahawks enter Game 2 with a 13-6 record, 4-2 in the Commonwealth Coast Conference, and the Bison are 2-13 overall, 1-2 in the Commonwealth Coast Conference. We'll be back for the first pitch after a short break. We are ready for the first pitch here at Reynolds Field. Corey Poplowski is on the mound. And he is facing the right fielder Matt Hardy, leading off Game 2. And Game 2 is underway at 3:15. Hardy, infield single up the middle, stopped by Sean Becker at second base. First pitch swinging for Matt Hardy.
Now batting number 5, Ben Harrow.
Brings up Benjamin Harrow. He's batting .458 on the season. First pitch into Harrow is a called strike. 1-1 count now to Benjamin Harrow. Single through the left side, past Joey Haley and Dan Donahue. Left fielder Ryan Sweener sends it back to the infield.
Now batting, number 15, Shane McNally.
In the first inning of Game 1, Ben Roth retired the first two Bison batters before Harrow and McNally had base hits. They were both stranded. And now in Game 2, Poplawski sees the first two Bison hitters, Hardy and Harrow, reach on base hits. McNally at the plate. Showed bunt but pulled back for ball 1. Donahue will keep Hardy close at second base. Gets a throw from Poplawski. Hardy's back diving safely. Bunt is down. Haley picks it up. Over to Becker, but it's in the dirt for a throwing error. Sacrifice bunt is successful and a run scores. So that's the first run of the afternoon for the Bison, who were shut out in Game 1. They now lead Game 2 here in the top of the first inning, 1-0. Joseph Nicolais, the designated hitter, is at the plate. He has an 0-2 count. He has McNally on second, who reached on a throwing error, and Harrow on third, and a 1-0 game for Nichols College. Still nobody out here in the top of the first inning. Corey Poplawski ready to deliver an 0-2 pitch. And gets a swinging strikeout on Nicolais.
Now batting, number 32, Jeff Sylvester.
First baseman Jeff Sylvester batting. First pitch is a ball. Poplawski gets the low pitch called for a strike. 1-1 on Sylvester. Strike 2. So after a run is in for the Colonel, the Bison, Poplawski is getting ahead of The next two batters he's faced, striking out Nicholas, and now 1-2 on Sylvester. And he gets him swinging. Second straight strikeout. The right fielder, Greg Pohl, his first at-bat of the day. He did not see any action in Game 1. He's batting .292 on the season. First pitch swinging, fouled right at the plate. We'll bring you some scores from other action in the CCC that involves Salve, Regina University. Men's tennis lost at Curry College 7-2. Game 1 of a softball doubleheader at Nichols College for the Seahawks. The Bison won that game 6-5. And Greg Pohl hits a 2-run single in the gap in left center with 2 outs. And brings up the shortstop, Brett Franciosi. Franciosi was 0 for 3 in Game 1. Poplawski has a 1-1 count on Franciosi with Pohl on first base. Nichols leads 3-0. Bunt by Franciosi, fielded by Poplawski, over to Conti at first base for the final out of the first inning. 1-3 on the play. Franciosi's out. For the Bison in the first inning, 3 runs on 3 hits, 1 error, 1 left on base. Salve Regina comes to bat, trailing 3-0. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. Bottom of the first inning with the Seahawks facing the Bison of Nichols College. Nichols scored 3 runs in the top of the first. All 3 runs were unearned. 1 throwing error in the inning for the Seahawks. Left fielder Ryan Sweener leads off and sees strike one from Bison pitcher Colin Geegan, a junior from Watertown, Massachusetts. Second pitch is fouled away. Geegan quickly works an 0-2 count. And he gets Sweener strikeout looking. 3 straight pitches, first out of the first inning. We've got John Williamson joining us here in our broadcast booth. He says he has a 20-minute break between what, John?
My workshop.
You're designing websites. That's excellent. Well, welcome to Game 2 of Salve, Regina University versus Nicholas College. The Seahawks won Game 1 4-0.
Very nice. That's what I like to hear.
How's your workshop going?
It's going well. It's interesting. It'll come in handy in the future, and it's always cool to know how to make websites.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you doing anything sample-wise in the workshop?
Well, I have a website going, but it's just to get the hang of it. Nothing real serious right now.
Well, during your 20-minute break, you get to see Dan Donahue, the second batter for the Seahawks, line an 0-2 pitch for a single into left field.
Very nice.
Seahawks gave up 3 runs in the top of the first inning. And it brings up the center fielder, Ryan Kelly. John, you're going to be a 5-year MBA candidate?
That is correct. I'm coming back for a graduate year after I graduate in May.
John Williamson has been a valuable part of our work-study staff, a student here. He joined the work-study staff in his junior year, and he's now a senior. Freshman year, you were on our men's basketball team, and you were part of a Commonwealth Coast Conference champion.
That is right. Nothing quite like it. It was an amazing feeling.
Especially for that team that certainly wasn't picked high in the preseason poll. A pickoff throw to first base gets away from the first baseman, and Donahue's going to get all the way at least to third base standing.
Showing off the speed there, rounding second, headed all the way to third.
He's always a threat to steal. It's going to be a 2-base error on a pitcher throwing. Ryan Kelly in the air to left field. It's deep. He's going to score. Donahue stays in play. Left fielder got a glove on it.
He got a hold of that one. Probably would have hit the wall in the air if the left fielder did not get his glove on it.
True. So an RBI double for Ryan Kelly gets 1 run back for the Seahawks. They are on the board against Colin Geegan. He got the first out on 3 straight strikes to Ryan Sweener, but the next 2 batters have reached base on hits. The runs are earned against Geegan because Donahue would have scored from first on that Ryan Kelly double, but the runs were unearned against Poplawski in the top of the first inning. Throwing error by Salve, Regina, third baseman, allowed runners to move into scoring position.
Yeah, how hard that ball was hitting with Donahue's speed, he easily would have made it home, whether it be on first or third.
Dominic DeSano, the catcher for the Seahawks, bats for the first time in Game 2. He's in an 0-2 hole after that foul. Where is your web design class being held?
It's actually in Antone, right behind the ball field. So.
Wow. Does the classroom have windows to see the ball field?
Unfortunately, it does not. But I knew there was a game coming, so 20-minute break. I wanted to utilize it, get some of the game in.
I remember when my office used to be in the Antone Center. It
Wow.
used to be called Wetmore Stables. And I had the luxury, while coaching the tennis team, my office overlooked the tennis courts.
How about that? They hooked you up very nisely.
They really did. I like my digs better now at Rogers Recreation Center, though.
It is a nice office.
Desano is a strikeout-looking victim, the second one of the inning for the Seahawks. So with 2 outs and Kelly on second base, Tyler Colby comes to bat. Salve Regina's right fielder in game 2. He was the left fielder in game 1. He's very versatile, John.
Yeah, he seems to play wherever the Seahawks need him. Wherever coach asks of him, he can do it, and he does it well.
Like Ryan Kelly, he was a former member of our football team as he grounds out to second base to end the bottom of the first. If your 20-minute break lasts a little bit longer, we'll come back and continue our chat after this break.
Sounds good.
We go to the top of the second with Nichols leading 3-1. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. Corey Popolowski takes the mound for inning number 2. Bison scored 3 runs against him in the top of the first. They were all unearned. Salve got 1 run back. We now have a 3-1 game as Scott Iacobucci, the second baseman for the Bison, leads off the top of the second. John Williamson is from Littleton, Massachusetts, and he was discussing some of the Littletonians that are on the Bison roster.
That is right. Number 26, Ryan Pichelle, is on the roster. I actually played football with him in high school. He's a few grades behind me, but good kid and excellent baseball player.
So you were a football player as well, Mr. Williamson.
That is right. Football and basketball.
Excuse me. Iacobucci pops out to shortstop Dan Donahue out in shallow center field, leading off the inning. What position did you play in football?
I played safety and receiver.
Oh, 2 ways.
Yes, it was senior year. We made it to the Super Bowl and lost to a much bigger school than us, but just getting there was a feat in itself.
Any basketball highlights that you and Jeff Bielefeld had together?
Yes, senior year as well. Won the conference for the first time in about 25 years. Littleton wasn't that good a program, but we won the conference 10-0 and made it to the semifinals of the district, which was quite a feat at the time.
So first time in 25 years
that they won the conference. That we won the conference, correct? And we swept 10-0.
Did your parents go to Littleton?
No, they did not.
I was going to say, were they on that team?
No, they were not.
Was your dad on that team?
My dad was a good basketball player, but he went to Concord Carlisle, town over. Close though.
center fielder Evan Thompson has a 1-2 count on him, and he fouls that pitch off. Thompson didn't get the start in game 1, but he's out there patrolling center field for the Bison in game 2. And he is batting 9th in the lineup. The Nichols Sports Information Director was an assistant SID at Salve when you were a freshman, so he got to witness your basketball championship at Wentworth. And then his Bison this year, Pete DeVito's Bison, made it to the championship game this year in the Commonwealth Coast Conference Men's Basketball Championships. Ryan Sweener comes in to get that fly out from Evan Thompson for out number 2 in the inning.
The Bison did have an excellent year this year. They were first going into the tournament. They were the favorites and couldn't pull it out, unfortunately.
Yeah, Salve, Regina took them to overtime in the semifinals in front of what I thought was a great crowd at the Dudley.
The Bison fan came out in droves and showed some great support, well organized. It was good to see.
Yeah. Top of the order back up for the Bison, Matt Hardy. He led off the game with a single. He later scored. He scored the first run after a throwing error by the Seahawks. We're in a 3-1 game in the top of the second inning. 2 outs. Corey Popolowski pitching for the Seahawks. He's got a 1-2 count on Hardy. In the air, it's going to be out of play behind the backstop. John, where did you live on your first year on campus?
I lived in New Res, which is now called Walgreen. It was a great experience, and I roomed with Jeff Bielefeld, basketball star. It was
Littleton neighbors and Littleton roommates.
That is right.
On the ground to Dan Donahue at shortstop. Over to Anthony Conti at first base. Final out of the second inning for the Seahawks. So 3 up, 3 down for Corey Popolowski. We'll head to the bottom of the second with Nichols College leading 3-1. Welcome back to the Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island for the bottom of the second inning. Nichols College has a 3-1 lead in game 2. Salve, Regina won game 1, 4-0. Third baseman Joe Haley leads off the bottom of the second for the Seahawks. He's facing Colin Geegan for the first time. Geegan pitch is foul down the right field line. Geegan gave up a run in the first inning. Dan Donahue had a single, and Ryan Kelly drove him in with a double to left field. Joe Haley went 1 for 3 in game 1. And he now has a hit. Or no, a great catch by Matt Hardy in left field for the Bison. So 1 out here in the bottom of the second inning. Outstanding catch by the left fielder Matt Hardy. He was in right field in game 1. Salve, Regina's right fielder in game 1, is Nicholas Delano. He's now the designated hitter in game 2. And he's at the plate right now facing Colin Geegan. Delano went 0 for 3 in game 1. He fouls off 2 Geegan pitches here for an 0-2 count. My thanks to John Williamson for stopping by on his 20-minute break from a website design class here on Saturday, April 5, 2014. Game 2 started at 3:15. We're now approaching 30 minutes into the game. Delano now has a 2-2 count with 1 out in the second. Swings through that pitch. Strike 3. Third strikeout of the day for Geegan. He now faces the number 9 hitter in the Seahawk lineup, Anthony Conti. Conti was 0 for 2 with a walk in game 1. Off is at that pitch with a bunt. Strike 1. Conti is a senior communications major from Georgetown, Massachusetts. Swings through that pitch. Geegan has a 1-2 count on Conti, with 2 outs in the bottom of the second. Just missing, ball 2. To the right side, second baseman Ikabuchi over to Sylvester. A 1-2-3 inning in the second inning for Geegan. He heads to the bench as the Bison will come to bat in the top of the third inning. Benjamin Harrow, the catcher for the Bison, leads off inning number 3. He had a first inning single and scored a run. He was 1 for 3 in game 1 and brought a .451 batting average into game 2. He's now at .469 on the season. Pitches a ball low. Harrow is a sophomore from North Reading, Mass. To the right side, Anthony Conti gets a glove on it, but unable to field it cleanly. Error first base. Brings up the third baseman, Shane McNally. His sacrifice bunt attempt in the first inning was thrown away for an error that allowed a run to score, and he later scored on a base hit by a Bison. Grounder up the middle. Donahue fields it behind the bag, and his only play is to throw to first to get the batter McNally. Harrow is safe at second. He was running on the pitch. So Harrow's at second with one out, and Joseph Nicolais at the plate. Skies are starting to clear. First pitch into Nicolais is a strike. Temperature at the start of Game 2 had dipped to 50 degrees. Game 1 had a 52-degree temperature start. Desano throws down to second. Donahue covering, but Harrow's back safely. First two pitches into Nicolais are strikes. So Poplawski has an 0-2 count against Nicolais with one out in the top of the third inning. Nichols leads 3-1. Ball high. Poplawski gets Nicolais swinging for the second out of the inning. And the third strikeout of the game for Poplawski. First baseman Jeff Sylvester now bats. Corey is a marketing major from Syracuse, New York. I would imagine Syracuse is still digging out some snow, as the sun is shining very brightly now on Reynolds Field. Swing and a miss by Sylvester. He's in an 0-2 hole with two outs. Harrow on second base. Fouls that away. Stays 0-2. Up the middle and through for a single for Sylvester. Harrow gets held at third. Kelly's throw gets into Desano on a bounce. So runners at the corners for the Bison.
Greg Cole.
Right fielder Greg Pohl now bats. He had a 2-run single in the first inning. He now faces Popolowski with 2 runners on in the third inning. Nichols leads 3-1. First pitch inside for a strike. In the air to right field, Tyler Colby shades his eyes with his glove and catches the ball for the final out of the top of the third inning. For the Bison in the third inning, no runs on 1 hit, 1 error, 2 are left. Salve, Regina will come to bat in the bottom of the third inning after this break. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. We're in the bottom of the third inning. Nichols College leads Salve, Regina 3-1. Sean Becker leads off the bottom of the third inning for the Seahawks. He's the second baseman. This is his first at-bat of the day. Nichols scored 3 runs in the top of the first. Salve, Regina countered with 1 in the bottom of the first. Now we're in the bottom of the third with the same score, 3-1. Sean Becker from Richmond, Virginia sees the first 2 pitches from Colin Geegan go by as balls, so he's got a 2-0 count. Third pitch in there for a strike, 2-1. Fouls that off to the left side in front of the Seahawk dugout. 2-2. Full count to the Seahawks second baseman. On the ground to the right side, second baseman Iacobucci gets it over to Sylvester for the first out of the third inning. Top of the order up for the Seahawks, the left fielder Ryan Sweener. He saw 3 pitches from Gagan in the first inning and was a strikeout victim. fouls that first pitch off. In game one, Sweener had a double, a run scored. As Salve Regina won game one, 4-0. On the ground to the left side, third baseman McNally over to Sylvester, out number 2. Brings up the Seahawks shortstop, Dan Donahue. Donahue was 1 for 2 in game one. He already has a hit and a run scored in game 2. First pitch in there for a strike. Swings through that Gigan pitch for strike 2. Nichols leads 3-1. Bottom of the third inning. 2 outs and an 0-2 count on Dan Donahue. Outside for ball 1. Donahue swings at the low pitch, and he beats it out as Gigan ran to the first base line and put a hand on it. Wasn't able to get it foul and wasn't able to pick it up cleanly. So it's a base hit with 2 outs for Dan Donahue. Brings up the center fielder, Ryan Kelly. He doubled in Donahue in the first inning for the Seahawks' only run thus far. That double went over the left fielder's head. The left fielder got a glove on it, Matt Hardy. But it ticked off his glove and into the blue mesh fencing. As in game 1 and in game 2, Donahue's drawing a lot of attention when he's on the base pass. In the first inning, he had a single and then got all the way to third base on a throwing error for a failed pickoff attempt. He's attempting to steal second, and he's in there safely with a stolen base. First pitch swinging strike to Ryan Kelly. So Kelly has Donahue in scoring position with 2 outs in the bottom of the third inning. Donahue's belt snaps, so he'll need a replacement. So belt adjustment is made. Donahue will lead off second, and Ryan Kelly will dig in for an 0-1 pitch from Colin Gigan with 2 outs in the bottom of the third inning. 3-1, Nichols leads. In the air, center field. Evan Thompson gloves it with his left hand and puts away the Seahawks in the third inning. For Salve Regina in the third. No runs on 1 hit, no errors, 1 left. And the Bison will come to bat in the 4th inning. Top of the fourth inning, with the Nichols College Bison leading the Seahawks of Salve, Regina 3-1. Corey Poplowski is pitching for the fourth inning. I'm joined in the broadcast booth by a longtime friend. Met him 11 years ago when he joined me as an intern from UMass Amherst. Joe Moran. How are you doing, Joseph?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to be here watching the Seahawks. And I can't believe it's been 11 years.
So much has happened in 11 years. Seahawks won a conference championship baseball-wise in 2005. You have some close friends on that team, Chris Haddad and...
Yes, I would think I was at that game.
Yes, Eric Sorella, who's now our head coach. And that's how I got to meet you, is through Eric Sorella and Steve Sorella. You grew up with Eric?
Yes, I did. Yep, went to high school with him, played sports, and was looking for an internship. And I was very lucky to land one with Salve, Regina.
First batter of the fourth inning is Franciosi, the shortstop for Nichols College, and Brett flies out to Tyler Colby in right field. So the second baseman, Scott Iacobucci, is now batting for the Bison. Joe Moran was on hand with our program back in 2003 when volleyball was just starting, and Salve, Virginia's volleyball has come such a long way from its first couple of years. A year ago they were in the conference championship, and this past year are in some regional ranking. Iacobucci flies out to Sean Becker in short right field. What are your recollections of the beginning of our...
I remember that was the fall season that I was here. The first fall season I did a lot of work watching volleyball and keeping stats. Learned a ton about volleyball I had no idea about. But yeah, I really enjoyed that action, and it's great to hear they're doing well, because it's tough to build a program when you're first starting. And
yep. It takes a lot of recruiting. Coach Parsons inherited the program from Lindsay Marshall, who inherited it from Jennifer Maxwell. We're on our fifth head coach in the history of the program, and Coach Parsons was, I think, a coach of the year a year ago as her first year, and then this past year brought him to a 26-5 record overall.
Fantastic. You learn a lot about each game when you're actually tabulating the stats. That's with football. I remember we were over at
Topa Field.
Topa Field. Volleyball, when you have to watch every game with such intensity, you learn a lot.
Well, Evan Thompson, the center fielder for Nichols College, walks on 4 pitches with 2 outs here in the fourth inning. It brings up the top of the order, Matt Hardy. Hardy had a first inning single and then grounded out to shortstop Dan Donahue in the second inning. That's on the ground to Joe Haley at third base, across to Anthony Conti at first base. So after a 2-out walk, Poplowski is able to escape any damage, and we'll head to the bottom of the fourth inning with Nichols College leading 3-1. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. Salve, Regina baseball. The Seahawks hosting the Nichols College Bison. Salve, Regina won game 1, 4-0, and trail here in game 2, 3-1. Dominic DeSano leads off the bottom of the 4th inning with an infield bunt single down the third base line.
Great way to start the inning.
Absolutely.
Make something happen with the bunt.
I'm joined again for this frame with longtime friend Joe Moran and former intern with the Salve, Regina athletic program. Next batter up for the Seahawks is Tyler Colby. He grounded out to second base in his first at bat. He's facing Gigan for the second time. Something to be said about second time around. So since interning with Salve, Regina in the fall of 2003, what have you been up to?
I stayed in Rhode Island a couple years and went off to law school in Queens, New York, which was an experience, and did some work in New York afterwards, and actually I'm back in Rhode Island, and took the Rhode Island bar exam in February, and I'm awaiting the results.
Good luck.
Thanks.
How long does it usually take to get results from a February exam?
May,
Wow,
sometime
3
in May.
months?
Yeah, they have to grade each one and scale them.
Colby reaches on a fielder's choice grounder to the third base. DeSano's out at second. So speaking of North Kingstown, any familiarity with our third baseman and now batting Joe Haley? He's
The
from North Kingstown.
name rings a bell, and I've heard. I saw his last at bat up close. He lined one in the gap, I think, and
Yeah.
a great play made
Nice
on it.
catch by the left fielder Hardy.
Yeah.
As I was calling it, saying, "Oh, he's got a hit now." Oh, wait a minute! There goes Hardy.
I was actually standing behind that left fielder for Nichols on the long ball earlier in the ball
Kelly's
game.
hit.
Yeah, that was struck well,
Close to a home run.
and he made a really nice bid for it.
Yeah. He was playing right field in game 1. He's moved over to left field in this game. Gigan checks on Colby at first base. Colby's back diving safely.
It's wonderful that fans who can't make it out to the game can check in online.
Yeah, we've got some nice gear out here. We've come a long way. I've got an iMac, a PC laptop doing live stats, an HD camera to capture the footage, and wireless microphones. On the ground to the right side, second baseman Ikabuchi over to Franciosi. And the relay to first is not in time, but they get one out of the play. So fielder's choice grounder for Haley. And Colby is out 4-6. Brings up designated hitter Nicholas Delano with 2 outs and Haley on first base. In our conversation, I've drifted and not kept track of the pitch count, but that's okay. I'm sure they're doing that in the dugout.
Yeah.
You know head coach Eric Sorella well.
Yeah, good friend of mine. Just first year he inherited the program. I'm excited for him. I think he brings a lot to the table. I know a really amazing baseball IQ and passion. Good. I think he's going to be a great fit. You know, Ed, I learned a lot from you in our times, but one category you improved my knowledge on was music, good music, and those the late nights working after games, and
Who are you a fan of, music-wise?
I kind of like it all.
Did I Turn you on to Steely Dan at all?
A little bit, a little squeeze.
Oh yeah, squeeze. Well, no squeeze play here for the Seahawks as Haley Delano grounds out to shortstop Franciosi to end the 4th inning. Nichols will come to bat in the top of the 5th, and they'll be leading 3-1. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island for Salve, Regina baseball action. Ben Harrow leads off the top of the 5th inning for the Bison, and he flies out to Ryan Sweener in left field. First pitch swinging for Harrow. He's now 1 for 3 in the game 2. He was 1 for 3 in game 1 as well. Brings up Shane McNally, the third baseman for the Bison. First pitch swinging and strike 1. Fouls that off for strike 2. Waits that pitch high for a ball. 1-2 count on McNally. Nichols has 3 runs on 4 hits, 1 error. As ball 2 goes in there. Salve Regina has 1 hit, 1 run on 4 hits with 2 errors. As Nichols bats here in the top of the 5th inning. 2-2 count on McNally. Here's a pitch from Poplowski. Grounded to shortstop Dan Donahue. Strong throw over to Anthony Conti. And that's out number 2 in the 5th inning. Joseph Nicolacci, the designated hitter, now batting. First pitch swinging, fouls that over to the Bison dugout. Another Seahawk action at Corday Field. Western New England defeated Salve Regina in women's lacrosse 14-9. Leon Bales is calling the action there for the Seahawks as Nicolacci reaches on a 2-out single to center field. Brings up the first baseman Jeff Sylvester, and with 2:44 left in the 3rd quarter, Western New England men's lacrosse team leads Salve, Regina 13-7. Leon Bales was also calling that action. Sylvester grounds to Dan Donahue, who flips over to Sean Becker covering second base for the force out. That ends the 5th inning for the Bison. For the Bison, no runs on 1 hit, no errors, 1 left. Seahawks will come to bat, trailing 3-1 in the bottom of the 5th. Welcome back to the bottom of the 5th inning. Anthony Conti leads off for the Seahawks, who trail 3-1 to the Bison of Nichols College. Both teams scored their runs in the 1st inning. 3 for the Bison. All of those were unearned against Corey Poplowski, and 1 for the Seahawks with a Ryan Kelly double to left field that scored Dan Donahue. And Anthony Conti earns a leadoff walk here in the bottom of the 5th inning. First walk of the game for Colin Geegan. Brings up Sean Becker for the Seahawks. Becker grounded out to second base in his only other at bat. As Geegan gets a visit from the mound to the mound from Nick Puccio. First-year Bison head coach. Several programs in the Commonwealth Coast Conference have first-year head coaches. Last Saturday's game featured Western New England with the first-year head coach Dan Gomez, Eric Sorella from Salve, Regina, and Nick Puccio from Nichols College. Geegan gets set to face Sean Becker with Anthony Conti on first base. Becker requests timeout and gets it. No outs here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Nichols leads 3-1. Strike 1 into Sean Becker. Fouled off. 0-2 count. throws down to Sylvester at first base, but Conti's back safely. 1-2 count now to Sean Becker. In the dirt, low for ball 2. In the air to the left side, and out of play into the tall arborvitae that borders Reynolds Field and Chateau Semur. So still a 2-2 count. Conti is off and running. He'll steal second as the ball gets away from Harrow. Full count on Sean Becker, who now has Anthony Conti in scoring position with nobody out in the bottom of the 5th inning. Nichols leads 3-1. No runs have scored since the 1st inning. Salve threatens with nobody out here in the bottom of the 4th. And the 2nd straight walk issued by Geegan. Puts runners at 1st and 2nd.
Now batting, number 4, Brian.
Top of the order for the Seahawks. They'll be facing a new pitcher, number 20. Tyler Shute, a senior from Mashpee, Mass. Right-hander. Shute came into today's game leading the Bison in innings pitched. And he now inherits 2 base runners with nobody out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Nichols leads 3-1. Both Anthony Conti and Sean Becker earned walks. And now we bring up the top of the order, Ryan Sweener, the designated hitter. Correction, the left fielder in game 2. He was a designated hitter in game 1. Against Geegan, the starter, Sweener struck out looking in the 1st and grounded out to McNally at 3rd in the 3rd. In game 1, Ryan Sweener had a base hit. That was a double. He also had a run scored. Salve had 3 doubles in game 1. Sweener, Kelly, and Tyler Colby. Sean Becker is going to get a pinch runner at first base. And most likely a fielding replacement, as it's Hunter Sleeper who's going into pinch run. Here's the pitch. No, there's no pitch. There's a turnaround, and let's look at Conti at second base. Shute looks him back to the bag. As Ryan Sweener gets ready to see the first pitch from Tyler Shute. In there for a strike. Ball outside and low, 1-1 on Sweener. Shot to right field, caught. Caught by Greg Pohl out there in right field. His throw to first was not in time to get Sleeper, and Conti gets over to third base. A nice line shot by Sweener, but right at Greg Pohl. Brings up the shortstop, Dan Donahue. Donahue is 2 for 2 in game 2, and he scored the only Seahawk run thus far. Back safely at first base is Hunter Sleeper. Conti retouches third base. Sleeper looking to get a lead to get into scoring position to put 2 runners in scoring position for Dan Donahue. Only 1 out here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Nichols lead 3-1. And Donahue ready to face the first pitch from Shoot. In there for a strike. Donahue 2 for 2. Both singles. Ryan Kelly has the only extra base hit in game 2 for the Seahawks. That was a first inning double which scored Donahue. Kelly is on deck. Ball low. 1-1 count to Donahue. Tyler Shoot gets set, throws over to first baseman Jeff Sylvester. Sleeper is back, sliding with a head first slide. He does not have a large lead at first base. Here's the pitch to Donahue outside, ball 2. Anthony Conti and Sean Becker reached on walks. We have runners at the corners now. Pitch to Donahue is fouled off to the left side. 2-2 count. Hunter Sleeper is the pinch runner for Sean Becker. He is at first base. Anthony Conti is at third base. And Dan Donahue is ready to face a 2-2 pitch from new pitcher Tyler Shoot. He fouls that off to the backstop. Still 2-2. Donahue was 1 for 2 in game 1. He scored a run in that game. And also had a sacrifice bunt. Sleeper once again back safely at first. An errant pickoff throw in inning 1 led to a Seahawk run. Seahawk runners continue to get attention over at the bags. And Donahue is caught looking. 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th. Ryan Kelly comes up with runners at the corners. So the first 2 Salve batters reach on base on balls. And they now have runners on the corners, but now with 2 outs as Ryan Kelly bats in the bottom of the 5th inning. First pitch to Kelly is high, ball 1. Kelly is batting 3rd in the Seahawk lineup. Is a 1-0 pitch from Shoot to Kelly. In there for a strike. Conti on 3rd, Sleeper on 1st, 2 outs, bottom of the 5th. Tyler Shoot with a 1-1 pitch to Ryan Kelly. First checks over at first base, Sleeper in safely. Here's the pitch to Ryan Kelly. It hits him and he is awarded first base. To load the bases for the Seahawks. Sleeper over to 2nd. Conti remains at 1st. And Dominic DeSana will now bat with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th inning. Nichols College leads 3-1. Desano has a single and 2 trips to the plate in game 2. In game 1, he was 1 for 3 with 2 runs batted in. First pitch from Shoot is in there for a strike. So Dominic Desano has an 0-1 count with the bases loaded, 2 outs in the bottom of the 5th. Puts that ball in the air. It's going to reach the outfield grass. Shortstop Franciosi puts it away for out number 3. So the Seahawks strand 3 runners in the 5th inning. Score none, and Nichols will come to bat in the top of the 6th inning, leading 3-1. So Hunter Sleeper remains in the game at second base. He was stranded at second base along with Ryan Kelly at first base and Anthony Conti at third base. Seahawks stranded 3 runners, bases loaded with 2 outs and a pop out to short. Nichols College has a 3-1 lead as we start the top of the 6th inning. Greg Pohl, the right fielder for Nichols, sees ball 1 from Corey Poplowski. Bunt attempt is in play. Joe Haley fields it over to Anthony Conti at first base for the first out of the 6th inning. Brett Franciosi, the shortstop for the Bison, now batting. He is 0 for 2 in game 2. And he was 0 for 3 in game 1. First pitch in there from Poplowski is a strike. In the air to Ryan Kelly in center field. Very little movement necessary, and he gets under it for the second out. Scott Akabuchi, the second baseman for the Bison, now batting. He and Franciosi flip-flop spots in the batting order from game 1. .442 on April 5. Sun is now shining in the late afternoon sky, helping it to warm up to now 51 degrees. First 2 pitches to Akabuchi were balls, and then Poplowski threw in a strike right down the middle of the plate. 2-1 count. And here's a pitch from Poplowski. In the air to left field. Ryan Sweener has room and makes the catch in foul territory for the final out of a 1-2-3 inning for Corey Poplowski in the 6th. Salve, Regina will come to bat trailing 3-1 in the bottom of the 6th. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. The Watt Sherman residence is beyond the backstop at home plate at Reynolds Field. From this camera position, leading off the bottom of the 6th inning for the Seahawks, who trail 3-1, is the right fielder, Tyler Colby. Colby is 0 for 2 with a fielder's choice grounder and a ground out to second. First pitch swinging, fouls that off. Colby went 1 for 2 in game 1. Scored a run, had a base on balls. Up the middle, shortstop Franciosi gloves it behind the bag, and over to Sylvester for out number 1. Tyler shoots on for his first full inning of work. He relieved starter Colin Geegan in the 5th inning. Brings up third baseman Joe Haley. He'll be facing Tyler Shute for the first time. First pitch in the dirt, ball. Ball high. 2-0 count. Shute cannot find the plate against Haley. It's a 3-0 count. On the outside part for strike one. In play to the right side, first baseman Sylvester flips to Shute. Second out of the sixth inning. 3-1 on the scoring play. Pinch hitting for Nicholas Delano is freshman Alec Cusick. Delano is the designated hitter, so Cusick can stay in that position. Cusick comes into this at-bat with a .346 average on the season. He had a base hit against Eastern Connecticut State and his only trip to the plate on Thursday. And faces Tyler Shute with 2 outs in the bottom of the 6th. Nichols College leads 3-1. First pitch from Shute is a strike. Second pitch on its way. Strike 2. Cusick sees ball 1 outside. 1-2 count to Alec Cusick. On the ground, back to the pitcher, Shute. Gloves it, underhands it over to Sylvester to retire the side in order. For the Seahawks, no runs, no hits, no errors. And we head to the top of the 7th inning with Nichols College leading 3-1. Welcome back to the top of the 7th inning. Nichols College leads 3-1, and they are batting. Evan Thompson leads off for the Bison. Thompson is 0 for 1 with a walk. First pitch swinging to the gap in left center. It lands safely for a single. Just outside the grasp of a diving Ryan Kelly. Top of the order for the Bison is Matt Hardy. He led off the game with a single and scored a run. He's had 2 infield groundouts since then. Grounded to shortstop Dan Donahue in the 2nd, and to third base Joe Haley in the 4th. Bunt attempt by Hardy is over for a strike. DeSano throws down to Conti to check on Thompson. He's back safely. Hardy squares the bunt. Strike 2 on the miss. So an 0-2 count for Hardy. He's trying to get Thompson over to second base with a sacrifice. Put him in scoring position. He's still squaring. Pitch is in the dirt. It's a ball. And it's a wild pitch that allows Thompson to get to second base. No need for the sacrifice there. Sorella comes out to visit Poplowski. Takes the ball from the freshman right-hander, who gets applause as he reaches the Seahawk dugout. New pitcher coming in for the Seahawks is senior right-hander, number 19, Kevin Lambert.
Now pitching for Salve, Regina, number 19, Kevin Lambert.
So Kevin Lambert is the new pitcher on for the Seahawks. He inherits a base runner at second base. This is Lambert's 7th appearance of the season. He has 2 wins. He's got a 2-0 record. And he also leads the Seahawks in saves with 3. Not a save situation as the Seahawks trail in this game. Lambert ranks second among the Commonwealth Coast Conference leaders in saves. His 3 saves trail only Tyler Pogmore of Roger Williams, who has 7. Again, not a save situation. Salve, Regina trails 3-1. Lambert is called on to keep that score at 3-1 until the Seahawks can come to bat in the bottom of the 7th. No outs here in the top of the 7th. Thompson's on second. Matt Hardy's at the plate. Left fielder for the Bison. Made a sensational play off a Joe Haley line shot earlier in this game. Hardy squaring the bunt, gets it down, foul. That's actually going to be a strikeout on Hardy because he fouled it, a 1-2 pitch foul. So the first out brings up Benjamin Harrow, the catcher. First pitch inside for a strike. So 1 out, Harrow bats with Thompson on second base. Hardy's out with the bunt foul on 2 strikes. Bunted in the air and out of play over the Seahawk dugout on the third base side. Salve, Regina won game 1 4-0. 4 runs have been scored in game 2, but 3 of them are on the nickel side and only 1 on the Seahawk side. Lambert ready to throw an 0-1 pitch to Harrow. Count is now 1-2. That was an 0-2 pitch after the foul bunt. Here's the 1-2 pitch from Lambert. Strike 3 looking on Benjamin Harrow. So Lambert gets the first 2 guys on strikeouts. Thompson still at second base for the third baseman, Shane McNally. Thompson leads off second base. Donahue creeping in behind him. Pitch is delivered and is a called strike. Lambert looks Thompson back to the bag. Donahue made a few steps behind the runner. In the dirt to the backstop. Wild pitch gets Thompson to third base. Not much room behind the catcher to the backstop area, but plenty to get Thompson over to third base. Had Thompson been at third base, not likely that he would have scored on that wild pitch. McNally now has a 2-1 count against Lambert. to the right side. Hunter Sleeper is in front of it. Throws over to Anthony Conti. It's an errant throw. Allows the batter to reach and the runner to score. And McNally makes it all the way over to second base after the throwing error. Sleeper did a good job of getting in front of the ball, but his throw pulled Conti off the bag and led to the fourth unearned run. It's a base hit up the middle by Nicolacci. Throw to the plate, and Ryan Kelly has McNally out by several feet. Excellent throw by the Seahawks center fielder. One hop throw to the plate gets McNally to end the inning, but the Bison score 1 run on 2 hits, 1 error, 1 left on base. Salve Regina will come to bat in the bottom of the 7th inning, trailing 4-1. We've reached the bottom of the 7th inning. Salve Regina University trails 4-1. New pitcher Adam Marigny to close it for the Bison. He's facing Anthony Conti leading off the bottom of the 7th. First pitch in from Rigney is a called strike. 0-1 count on Anthony Conti. Ball inside. Conti is 0 for 1 with a walk. He led off the 5th inning with a walk and was stranded at third base. Right back to Rigney. He fires over to Sylvester for out number 1. Tim Harris will be up to pinch hit for Hunter Sleeper. Harris had an RBI pinch hit single in game 1. So it's Rigney versus Harris. First pitch in for a strike. Next pitch fouled off, 0-2 count. Fouled off again. Still 0-2. Adam Rigney from the windup delivers. Ball low. Rigney has 2 saves on the season, seeking his third in a 4-1 game in the bottom of the 7th. There's a shot to left field. It's going to land in front of Matt Hardy for a 1-out single for Tim Harris. His second pitch hit single of the day, both to left field. That came on a 1-2 pitch. Top of the order for the Seahawks is the left fielder, Ryan Sweener. He's 0 for 3 in this game. Seahawks trail 4-1. Tim Harris at first base, Ryan Sweener at the plate. First pitch from Rigney to Sweener is high for a ball. Rigney steps off the rubber, looks Harris back to first. Inside for ball 2. Starting pitcher Colin Geegan, he was making only his second start of the season. He was 0-1 heading into today, and he is in position for a victory if Rigney can save it for him. That's ball 3 to Sweener. He's got a 3-0 count and a red light on this pitch. And the red light worked as it's ball 4, just outside. So with 1 out, Harris is on second, Sweener is on first with the walk, and shortstop Dan Donahue at the plate. Rigney gets a quick visit from head coach Nick Puccio. So Dan Donahue bats with 1 out in the bottom of the 7th inning. Tim Harris on second base. And Ryan Sweener on first base. First pitch to Donahue is catches the outside corner for a strike. Next pitch, line shot over the shortstop's head into center field. Harris had to hold at second base, but he's able to reach third base safely. It's a single to center field for the Seahawks shortstop, loads the bases. Sweener down to second base, Harris to third. And now the bases are loaded for center fielder Ryan Kelly. in the third spot in the batting order. He has the only RBI for the Seahawks in Game 2. A first inning double that brought home Dan Donahue. 1 out, bases loaded, Ryan Kelly batting. First pitch low for a ball. Both teams are 1 pitch away from ending the game. A double play grounder will get it for Nichols, and a grand slam home run will get it for Salve. That pitch is in there for a strike. In the dirt, blocked by Harrow. Stays in front of him for ball 2. Seahawks are looking for another walk-off win. They have 2 on the season. Season opening 6-5 win over Mitchell College. Ball 3, 3-1 to Ryan Kelly. And the Seahawks also had a walk-off win on their last day in Florida against Swarthmore College, 3-2 in extra innings. We're in the bottom of the 7th here. 4-1 Nichols leads. Full count now to Ryan Kelly. Hit by pitch. It's an RBI for Kelly. And it makes it a 4-2 game. As Dom DeSano comes to bat, Harrow will talk to Rigney on the mound. So again, both teams are 1 pitch away from ending the game. 1 out in the bottom of the 7th, bases loaded, 4-2 lead for Nichols College. Dom DeSano at the plate, facing Adam Rigney. First pitch low for a ball. Rigney started the inning off. Got a comebacker to the mound for the first out. Ground through, ball through the left side. Donahue is heading to home plate. He's going to score the tying run. And it's a 2-run single for Dominic DeSano. His single through the left side scores Ryan Sweener and Dan Donahue. And we have a 4-4 game here in the bottom of the 7th inning. And the winning run is represented in Ryan Kelly at third base. Tyler Colby now bats with 1 out. And runners at the corners. The only run that means anything is Ryan Kelly. Head coach Eric Sorella has speed on the base pass. His fastest runner is at third base. A wild pitch could bring him in. A squeeze bunt could bring him in. And the infield draws itself in on Nichols. Sylvester holds DeSano on at first base. Swinging away, it's in the infield. First base side, Sylvester gets under it, catches it in fair territory. For the second out. So now runners are still at the corners. Desano at first. He singled in 2 runs, the game tying runs. And Joe Haley has a chance to get the game-winning RBI at the plate for the Seahawks. Dom Desano at first base, Ryan Kelly at third base, Joe Haley at the plate, waiting the pitch from Adam Rigney. First pitch is a ball. Here's a second pitch from Rigney to Haley. Swung on. In the air to the left side. Third baseman McNally drifts over in foul territory, comes back, catches it in fair territory to retire the side. So Rigney's able to wiggle out of further damage, but the Seahawks score 3 runs on 3 hits, no errors, and 2 left in the 7th inning. We head to extra innings with a 4-4 game. So the Seahawks tie it up with a Dom Desano 2-run single in the bottom of the 7th. We have a 4-4 score here in the top of the 8th. Kevin Lambert pitching to the first baseman, Jeff Sylvester. New first baseman for the Seahawks is Mark Bolin. Anthony Conti moves over to second base. Three and 0 count to Sylvester. He's facing Lambert for the first time. So Colin Geegan does not get his first pitching victory of the season. As a blown save by Adam Rigney now gives us a tie score. 4-all in the top of the 8th. We are in extra innings in the game 2 of the doubleheader. Lambert walks the first batter, Sylvester. Leading off the 8th inning. Meeting at the mound for the Seahawks. All the infielders are brought in. likely not a pitching change discussion, more of a defensive strategy, what to do in a sacrifice bunt situation. Greg Pohl, the right fielder for the Bison, now bats. Pohl is 1 for 3 on the afternoon. All of his at-bats have come in game 2. He now faces Kevin Lambert for the first time. Sylvester's on first base. And Greg Pohl's at the plate. No outs here in the top of the 8th inning. Pohl fakes bunt, swings through for strike 1 as Joe Haley was charging in from third base. Mark Bolin is holding Sylvester on at first base, or it looks like a pinch runner. Pitch is outside. Jackson is pinch running for Sylvester at first base. Sylvester drew a leadoff walk and is now pinch run for by Brett Jackson. Jackson started game 1 as the center fielder. Lambert has a 1-2 count on the batter. He gets him swinging for a strikeout. So Pohl is down on strikes. Jackson still at first base. Brings up the shortstop. Brett Franciosi. First pitch is low outside, ball 1. Inside and hits him. So Nichols now has 2 runners on base. As a second baseman, Ikabuchi will step to the plate. Ikabuchi has put the ball in the air 3 times. Popped out to short, popped out to second, and foul fly to Sweener in left field. He bats with 1 out in the top of the 8th, 4-4 game. In the air to the left side, out of play. Strike 1. Lambert from the stretch. Pitch in there for a strike, 0-2. 0-2 count on second baseman Ikabuchi. He's got Franciosi at first and Jackson at second. And strike 3, 2 outs in the 8th inning. Center fielder Evan Thompson now bats. Thompson had a base hit to lead off the 7th inning and later scored. He now bats here in the top of the 8th inning with 2 outs and 2 on. First pitch ball from Kevin Lambert. Both bullpens are quiet. Swinging strike. 1-1 count on Thompson. Here's a 1-1 pitch from Lambert. Fouled off. 1-2. Seahawks scored 3 runs in the bottom of the 7th inning to tie the game at 4-all. Neither team had scored in innings 2 through 6. Nichols put 3 up in the first. Salve had 1 in the first, and then Nichols put 1 up in the 7th, and Salve had 3 in the 7th. That leaves us tied here 4-4 in the top of the 8th. Pitch from Lambert is low for ball 2. 2-2 count on Thompson. He has 2 runners on and 2 out in the top of the 8th. And here's the 2-2 pitch from Lambert. Grounded, second base, through. Kelly's throw to home plate, to the catcher DeSano. Not in time. They score the go-ahead run. Pinch runner Jackson makes it home on the single to center field by Thompson. Franciosi stays at second. And Matt Hardy, the left fielder, comes to bat with 2 on and 2 out. He swings and misses. Excellent throw by center fielder Ryan Kelly. Just not in time to get pinch runner Brett Jackson, who scored the go-ahead run. Nichols now leads 5-4. Still batting in the top of the 8th inning. Lambert has a 1-2 count on Matt Hardy. 2 outs. 2 runners on. Grounded to shortstop Dan Donahue. Over to first base. Mark Boland with a stretch and the putout. But the Bison score 1 run on 1 hit. No errors there. He left 2. Salve Regina comes to bat trailing 5-4 in the bottom of the 8th. Welcome back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. Salve Regina bats in the bottom of the 8th inning. And Alec Cusick leads off and gets the first base on a hit by pitch. New right fielder is Tyler Ferdinand for the Bison, and Greg Pohl moves to first base. Pinch runner for Salve Regina. Looks like Sal Camella at first base. Pinch running for Alec Cusick. That brings Anthony Conti to the plate. Rigney is still pitching for the Bison. First pitcher he faced here in the 8th inning, Alec Cusick. He hit him. So that puts the tying run at first base for the Seahawks. Conti gets a bunt down in front of Rigney. It's over to first base with Ikabuchi covering. So the sacrifice is successful, 1-4. Camella is now at second base, representing the tying run for the new first baseman Mark Boland, who bats for the first time in Game 2. Here's Rigney's first pitch to Mark Boland. Outside for a ball. Salve scored 3 in the bottom of the 7th to tie the score at 4-all. And Nichols went ahead 5-4 in the top of the 8th. Rigney's second pitch to Boland is a called strike, 1-1 count. Next pitch is inside and low, ball 2. Ball 3. 3-1 to Boland. Sal Camella, the pinch runner, is on second base. He pinch ran for Alec Cusick, who was hit by a pitch leading off the inning. Anthony Conti sacrificed him to second. Swinging is Mark Boland. He grounds to the right side. Greg Pohl gloves it and takes it to first base by himself for the second out of the inning. Sal Camella moves to third base. Top of the order for the Seahawks, Ryan Sweener with the tying run at third base. Visit at the mound, Rigney, Harrow, and looks like head coach Nick Puccio. It's 5:36 on Saturday, April 5. Salve, Regina won game 1, 4-0. They tied this game up 4-all in the bottom of the 7th inning. Nichols took the lead again, 5-4. We have 2 outs in the bottom of the 8th inning. Sal Camella represents the tying run. He's at third base. And Ryan Sweener is at the plate. Sweener drew a walk his last at bat and scored a run. First pitch from Rigney is over for a called strike. Is the pitch from Rigney to Sweener. High, football 1. One pitch to Ryan Sweener in the dirt. Gets away from Harrow, but not far enough for Camilla to make a move. Ball 2. 2-1 to Sweener. He's followed by Dan Donahue. To the right side, second baseman Ikabuchi. Over to Pole, and that retires the Seahawks in the 8th inning and finishes the game. Rigney gets the win, not the save. We'll be back for a wrap-up after a short break. back to Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. Seahawks and Bison just split a doubleheader. Game 2 went to extra innings. 5-4 was the final score for Nichols College. Winning pitcher is Adam Rigney. His record improves to 1-1. Losing pitcher for the Seahawks was Kevin Lambert. His record now goes to 2-1. Attendance at the game was 123, and length of the game was 2 hours and 25 minutes. For the Bison, 5 runs on 8 hits, 1 error. For the Seahawks, 4 runs on 7 hits, 3 errors. Box score totals. For the Seahawks, Dan Donahue had 3 hits in game 2, 3 for 4, 2 runs scored. Ryan Kelly had 2 runs batted in. One of them came painfully with a hit by pitch, but he'll take that. That was the second run of the game for the Seahawks. That came in the bottom of the 7th inning, and he was followed by a 2-run single by Dominic DeSana, which tied the game in the bottom of the 7th, 4-4. The Bison were able to put together a scoring inning in the top of the 8th inning as a walk and a hit batsman put runners on base for the Bison, and then Evan Thompson had the game-winning single with 2 outs on a 1-2 pitch from Kevin Lambert. That game-winning hit went up the middle and provided the game-winning run on the feet of their pinch runner Brett Jackson. So Salve Regina's record falls to 13-7 overall, 4-3 in the Commonwealth Coast Conference. The Bison are now 3-13 overall and 2-2 in the Commonwealth Coast Conference. We thank you for joining us on this broadcast. Next Seahawk game will be, let me find it, tomorrow. The Seahawks are at Wentworth Institute of Technology for a Commonwealth Coast Conference doubleheader in Boston, Massachusetts. First game is at noon. Seahawks will be back here on Monday at 4 o'clock with a 7-inning makeup game with Western New England College. And that's a final here from Reynolds Field in Newport, Rhode Island. Thank you for joining us. My name's Ed Habishaw. Thank you to Lynn, Taylor, and Kieran for letting me do what I do. And see you back here on Monday.